when you release the force, if the material is retaining or regaining its original dimension, it is called as it is within the elastic limit. So for maintaining the elasticity, both the material has to be stressed within the elastic limit, and also the force should be also within the elastic nature. And the plasticity is beyond the elasticity. So once the load or force is more than the elastic load, the material will start deforming, and the deforming will be such that the material will be keep on deforming, but there will be no loss in strength. So if you are stretching something after the elastic limit, if it is getting elonged, or it is having elongation, but the strength is less than, means it is not plasticity. So the strength has to be kept constant, and the elongation has to happen in the case of plasticity. So the main important curve of steel is the stress strain curve of steel. So for drawing the stress strain curve of steel, we are having the stress on the y-axis and the strain on the x-axis. So this is based on the tensile test on the steel rod. So have you learned this test in the lab, MT lab? Anyone? You had material testing lab, right? It's not audible to you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I asked something. Have you tested the steel rod in your metal testing lab?
Uh, from college, illa, sir.
നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എം ടി ലാബ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നില്ല ഇതുവരെയായിട്ടും?
Illa.
Okay, fine. So basically, uh, the stress strain curve of steel is the output of tension test on the steel rebar. So you consider rebar like this. So you have a steel rebar like this, and you'll be applying tensile force on the rebar. So that means the rebar is subjected to elongation, and this is a test for obtaining the stress strain curve of steel. So when you stretch the steel, the initial part of the stress strain curve will be a linear curve. You can see the variation between stress and strain. It's a linear curve up to some point, then it changes the linearity. So the straight line portion is called as the limit of proportionality, or Young's modulus. And so this is the first point up to which the linearity is maintained. And this is the point called as yield strength or elastic limit. So when you stress the rebar or the material within this point or this stress value, when you release the stress, the material will regain its original shape and dimension. If you're applying the stress beyond the yield strength, so this is a very important value for the steel, yield strength. So once again, it is the strength value or the stress value. Uh, if you are applying the stress less than the yield strength, then the material will regain its original dimension. So when you are stretching or applying the load beyond the yield strength, the material will elongate non-linearly, and then it will have an increase in strength. It's called as the strain hardening, and it will reach the ultimate strength, and then it start making, and it will end up in the fracture. So let's see. So I told you the plasticity is the property by which, when even after exceeding the elastic stress, the material will keep on elongation but an increase or increases strength. So you have the plastic nature here, and the ultimate strength is reached, and then the necking is happening. So you can see, compare the figure. This was the initial steel rod, on the application of tensile force, it will keep on elongating. So you can compare on the right side. That's the same here. So it elongated by this value, this much displacement, and after the ultimate strength is reached, it will start necking. So this is called as a necking or the failure, start of failure, and then it will go to the fracture mode. So you learned about the Hooke's law. So within the proportional limit or within the limit of proportionality, the stress strain curve will be a linear one, and the Young's modulus is the ratio between stress to strain. So up to this point, up to the straight line portion, the ratio between stress to strain is called as the Young's modulus. So both are important values in the steel. So the for the steel, when you compare various materials like aluminum, brass, copper, glass, iron, lead, and steel, the Young's modulus of steel is 200 gigapascal or 2 into 10 raised to 5 Newton per mm square. And also we have some shear modulus and bulk modulus values for the steel, but the value which we commonly need is the Young's modulus of steel. So the various forces that we apply on the steel include the tensile forces, the compressive forces, and the shear forces. So the tensile forces are meant to elongate the material, and the compressive forces, as the name indicates, to compress the material or to shrink the material. And we have the shear forces to shear the material into two. So that's from the material properties of steel and into the connections in steel structures. So commonly, the steel structures are generally divided into two. One is hot rolled steel sections and one is cold rolled steel sections. So the difference between hot rolled and cold rolled is that uh, we know the process of making the steel. So once you melt the iron ore and after the additives, if you are making the section directly in the molten stage, that means you are making melting the required material for the steel and making the sections in the hot temperature in the melted form. It is called as the hot rolled steel sections, and cold form steel sections are basically some sections made by bending of the steel sheets. So we have the hot rolled sections in general, and once you make a steel a sheet from the steel and then bring to the factory or something, and when you are bending the element into different configurations at room temperature, it is called as the cold form steel. So we are dealing with the bolt like the hot rolled steel sections, and the various methods of joining include the bolting of sections, welding of sections, and the riveting. So this is a bolt. We're having the bolt is the main portion, and you have the nut to tighten the bolt, and the various portions of the nut bolt assembly include the head on the bolt, the radius, then shank is the unthreaded portion. So there will be a half threaded portion for the bolt and there will be the unthreaded portion. So you have the shank as uh, the linear portion in the bolt, and you have the threading to facilitate the tightening of the nut, and so this is the thread length, the total threaded length portion, and the grip length, and the nominal length of the bolt is expressed uh, from the head end to the bottommost portion. And we have the other form of connection is the welded connections, and we also have the riveted connections. We will see in detail what are the way of doing it. So okay, so can you see this screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So this will be a rivet, and the rivet is having a head and a shank portion, and this is a tail portion. So the place where you have to make a connection, you will insert the rivet into the hole which is already made, and the bottom portion will be melted. So the bottom portion will be melted, and it will be hammered so that it will fix into the hole. So this will be like the final shape. This is the head of the rivet, and you have the shank here, and the bottom portion is melted, and it is hammered to make the rivet connections. So it's look like this rivet connection. So this is the head, and you have the shank here. On the reverse position, you will be having you will melt the shank portion, and you will hammer it. The various places where you are you need the connections in steel structures include the beam to column connection. So you can see a column here. You can see a column here, and the uh, beams. So this is another 3D view of the beam to column connection. So this is a column, and there are 4 beams connected from the 4 sides of the column. So this is a bolted connection. So you know this will be a I section, which you already learned. I section or X section, both the same. This will be a I section, and the beams are also I section. They are joined to the column by means of angle section. So when you consider this section, you have the I section beam joined to the flange of the column, and you have an angle cleat like model, and this model will be joining between the column as well as the beam. So in here, here this connection, one side is bolted and the other side is welded. So the mm, beam is bolted to the column, and on the beam side it is welded. This is the real photo showing the beam to column connection. And apart from the beam to column connection, you also need the connection between the beams, because I told you the steel beam is not made in the site. It has to be bought from the market of say the maximum length possible is 6 meter for bringing from the factories to the site. So if the length of beam is exceeding 6 meter, we are supposed to join 2 beams. So in that cases we require the joining connections or connection between the 2 beam members. So this shows a type of connection in the uh, beam 1 to beam 2. So here what we did is that we have one end plate bolted to the beam 1 as well as to the beam 2. Then we'll be having the bolted connection between the 2 plates. Okay, so that about the connection between the beam 1 and beam 2. Here you can see the connection between the column and the beam is made by welding. This is a welded mode of connection. And how here also we can see some stiffness. This is called as a stiffness, which will increase the strength of beam to column connections. So normally in the design process, for designing the connection between column and the beam, with a well will be sufficient if it's properly designed. Suppose the load is very heavy and you can't design, or the entire load can't be bared by a welder connection, you can go for the supporting uh, attachment like this. Okay, so by the stiffness. Then other important connection is the connection between the columns. So you can see here, this is the column 1 and this is the column 2. So if you want to increase the height of the column, bring two column separately, and on the side you have to assemble the column 1 and column 2. So the connection between the column 1 and column 2 is made with the help of a plate, and then it is bolted. So this connection will make sure that the column is behaving as a single member. This is the side view. And the other important connections in steel structures are the connection of column to the foundation. So as you can see, even in a steel building, the superstructure, that means the structure above the foundation, will be steel, but the structure or the material below the foundation will be concrete. Because of some corrosion issues, we are going for the concrete foundation and the steel superstructure. So we need a connection to establish between the steel as well as the concrete. So how we are doing the same? So we'll be welding one plate to the bottommost portion of the column, and then we'll be using some anchor bolt like this. So this is one way of doing this. Another way, uh, uh, okay, in this one, the main figure, you can see this is a column. This is a column, and you have the plate welded to the column, and this is some stiffness. So these are some stiffness uh, provided to avoid the bending of this plate. To avoid the bending of this plate, we are providing this type of stiffness. And here, this bolt will be, so they are pre-placed. They are placed uh, while concreting. That means these bolt portions. That means the head and the shank portion, the thread unthreaded portion, are already uh, placed in the concrete while concreting is done. And once you fix the column, then we'll be fixing the column on the so there will be some holes also. So okay, so we'll be making some holes on the steel plate, and matching with the extra dimension, we are placing the column onto the holes, and then we'll be tightening the nuts. So this is the one type of connections in column to foundation, and the other one is using the J bolt. So here we use the bolt, and this is the J bolt like this. So as the shape is like the J, it's called as a J bolt. Same principle. We are prefixing the J bolt into the concrete, and then we'll be placing the column over that one, and we'll be tightening with the nut. So any doubts from today's topic? Okay, if no doubts, we'll stop for today. And attendance, please. Can you list out me the absentees, or I will call the number? Okay, roll number 1 is present.
Yes, present, sir.
2,
Yes, sir.
3. I'll cross check with the total number. Okay, so 3 is absent. 3 is
Hello?
absent. Yeah, 3 is present.
Yes.
4, 5,
Present,
6,
sir. Present, sir.
7,
Present, sir.
8,
Present, sir.
9,
Present, sir.
10,
Present, sir.
11,
Present, sir.
12,
Present, sir.
13,
Okay, Vimal, thanks a lot for taking us through the.
Absent, sir.
13 is absent. Okay, 14,
Present, sir.
15, 15 is absent. 16,
Yes, sir.
17,
Present, sir.
18, 18 is absent.
18 permanent absent.
18 is permanent absent. Okay, 19,
Present, sir.
20,
Present, sir.
21,
Present, sir.
22,
Present, sir.
23,
Present, sir.
24,
24 absent, sir.
okay,
25.
26,
Present, sir.
27,
Present, sir.
28,
Present, sir.
29,
Present, sir.
30,
Present, sir.
31,
Present, sir.
32,
Present, sir.
33,
Present, sir.
34,
Present, sir.
35,
Present, sir.
36,
Present, sir.
37,
Present, sir.
38,
Present, sir.
39,
Present, sir.
40,
Present, sir.
41,
Present, sir.
number, right? 41. Yeah, up to 44
Yes,
or 40, 41.
No, 41.
Okay. Okay, then wind up for today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.